We had three options. I could use a cartoon, I could use an actor, or I could use me. People can meet me, they can talk to me, they can connect with me. Now, I was the cheapest.
Mattress Mick, thank you very much for joining me.
You're very welcome, and thank you. It's an experience, another experience that I'm going to enjoy, I hope.
A lot of people will know who Mattress Mick, the character, is at this point. But in your own words, who is he to you?
Well, Mattress Mick is really Michael Flynn. That is my name. Michael Flynn is in his late 60s, but he's worked hard all his life for himself, basically. When I left school, I went to Sing Street, and when I left school, I got a job in a bank, in a merchant bank called the Royal Trust Company, who are based in Dawson Street. Now, we were living in Pearse Street at that time because my family had a grocery or a drapery store in Pearse Street, and we lived in a house behind the shop. Now, I had some terrible difficulty getting a job because of my address. Pearse Street was seen to be, not such a nice place. And I also had trouble getting into nightclubs or tennis clubs, where in those days you had to be a member of a tennis club to get in. And I could not get membership because of my address. So I had to use some of my friends' addresses. It was just the way it was at the time. But I did eventually get an interview in a company called, as I said a moment ago, the Royal Trust. A very sympathetic, I would call him, bank manager, saw my request. I don't know where he saw it or how he saw it, but he did. And he called me in, and his name was Brian Doyle. Now, Brian interviewed me, gave me a job, and I was away in a hack. Now, I started off as kind of the office messenger or office boy or whatever it was, but eventually, not too long, I was offered the position of a money dealer in the dealing room. So what Royal Trust were doing, they were a merchant bank. They looked after pension funds, trusts, and also they had a banking license to deal on the money markets. And that really, really appealed to me. And I got into that very well, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. But at the same time, whilst I was there, I always had this burning ambition to be self-employed. So I was in the bank for about maybe 2 years, and my father passed away. I was only 19, 20 at the time. So I stayed at the bank for quite a while after that. But again, this urge to be self-employed. So I decided one day to hand in my resignation after speaking with my mum, who was running the shop in Pearse Street. I said, look, I'd like to come in here and help you. The shop was very busy. It was a drapery store, and it was the old traditional type of drapery store. And it was founded by my grandfather back in 1936. So my grandfather had it. My father worked it. When he passed, my mother was there. And then I felt I had to go in next. So I resigned from the bank. But before I did that, I had taken a stall in the Dandelion Market. The Dandelion Market was a market up in St. Stephen's Green. So that really gave me the energy to be self-employed. I was selling costume jewellery up there, and I did very well. In fact, I bought my first car out of the proceeds of it. Yeah. So anyway, I handed in my resignation. I worked in the shop with my mum. And then one day I noticed somebody getting off the bus with a bedside locker. And I said to myself, why, does he have to go into town to get a bedside locker? So I thought and thought and thought. And at that time, too, the furniture trade was slowly sinking because the likes of Pennies and Dunn's and Roger Stores and all these places were in the city centre. And Pearse Street is very near the city centre. So I could see a decline in the drapery business, although it was still strong, but I could see it happening. So I introduced and did some research about the furniture, and I came across some local manufacturers. So I started introducing furniture into the drapery store, and it began to go quite well. It was mainly bedside lockers, chest of drawers, some mattresses and that kind of thing. And it began to go quite well. And then I also had the idea, at that time a lot of people were using super Sarah gas heaters, and they had bottle gas cookers. So I applied for an agency for air gas, and I was successful in getting that. So I had in the shop drapery, furniture, and air gas, which was real like a country store, but in the middle of the city centre. But I went a little bit further on that one. The gas business was interesting because people like to get a delivery service. So I introduced a delivery service. I bought these little pickup vans, they're called FSOs. They were, I don't know where they were, from Poland or somewhere. And I got a two-way radio system from Pi. That was the name of the company many, many years ago. So I put in a two-way radio system. And I advertised the fact that we deliver gas around Dublin. So I put it out there. So the calls would come in. My mum was in the shop. She'd say, I have gas for Fitzwilliam Square, I have gas for Marion Square. And I had a van out there circulating all the time. So we got, the fact that we were so quick in delivering, we got a tremendous amount of business. So if I made a lot of money out of it, it was great. And I then had also got this urge to keep going. I couldn't stop. I was enjoying it. I had the furniture was going very well. And I decided I'd branch out a little bit. Now, this is Michael Flynn. This is not Mattress Mick speaking. So I opened a shop then in Prussia Street, a small shop in the shopping centre in Prussia Street. That went quite well. I also opened in Capel Street and Georgia Street. Georgia Street was interesting because it was the old Dockwell's building in Georgia Street, which Pat Quinn, the famous Pat Quinn, who had Super Quinn or Quinsworth, he took it over and he put it into like a market. There were all different kind of units within that big building. And we took one there and it went very well. Again, it was on the second or third floor up, but I can't remember which floor, but it worked. So we had these 3-4 shops going at the one time. And I was really enjoying it. Like, it was really going great, making plenty of money. My mother was happy, and her role she didn't have to work as hard because I had people doing different jobs. Now, I also have a brother and 2 sisters. So I was looking after them as well. So I just felt I was in the father of the family. Anyhow.
At this stage, Mick, sorry, by the way, do I call you Mick or do I call you Michael?
Call me Mick.
Okay. So at this stage, Mick, things have been going quite well from a business perspective, but it was Michael Flynn, as you say. Was there any, I suppose, what I might refer to as flair at this point? You know, did you feel like, because I suppose there were people in the supermarket industry, for example, who would have been kind of personal brands, if you like. Maybe not at this time, but certainly it became quite popular. Was there any thought or ambition to kind of be the face of something, or to be the face of something bigger at that stage?
Not at that time, no. Not at that time. I was content to go along as Michael Flynn. And my next move was to diversify. I had also opened a small little shop in Ringsend, in Irishtown Road in Ringsend. And my Auntie Angela, she ran that because she was a local lady. It was very small, tiny, but it was out there. But Ringsend was an area that I liked very much. And I noticed that there was no proper grocery store in Ringsend. They had the old-fashioned type counter service and that. But so I thought about it and I approached the Mace brand. And I took a lease on a property in Bridge Street in Ringsend. And Mace said they would support me. I could use their brand. And it was fantastic. It was just opposite the church in Ringsend, number 18 Bridge Street, Ringsend. So we opened a Mace store there. So I was operating the Mace store and the furniture stores all at the one time. But I was also enjoying myself. Like, I was going down to Leeson Street. I was going to the nightclubs. I got over this Pier Street address. Didn't matter because anyway. Yeah. I was beginning to enjoy myself as well. But the shops were going good. But I did take my eye off the ball a little bit. Now, I didn't realise I was taking my eye off the ball and things began to slide. But before they slid all the way down, I'd opened another grocery store in Pier Street. So I had the 2 Mace two main brands. I had the shop in Pier Street, and I had the other furniture shops that I previously mentioned. So I was full on, really full on. Now, my mum was getting a bit old and tired, so I decided to move her out of Pier Street, and I bought a house in Sandymount, just near Sandymount Green. So my youngest sister had gotten married in the meantime. I helped in that situation. My brother also had left the house. So it was only Mary, my eldest sister, although I'm the eldest in the family, but she was the eldest of the two girls. There's Mary, myself, and my mother living in Pier Street. So I bought the house in Sandymount. My mother moved down there, and she was so happy. It made all the difference because her sisters were living in Sandymount. She was there with them, and they could connect all the time. So everything was going great, super. I was enjoying my life, but it came to the stage where things got a bit ropey insofar as I noticed money was going missing, stock was going missing because I wasn't there all the time. Now, when I opened the shop in Ringsend, I employed local people, and I also gave an interview to a lady called Margaret Fitzpatrick. And Margaret later became my wife. Okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, that was, but she was managing the shop. She was great. She was honest, but she flagged me that things were not going right. She was very, very good at that. And I was still going out before I got involved in Margaret, going out with other girls and doing stuff, and she was getting more jealous all the time. Anyway, we didn't know at that time we were going to ever get married. But anyhow, we got involved in a relationship, and we had a daughter. Michelle is her name. She's now 39 years of age. Uh-huh. Yeah, she lives out here in the Killiney area. And we had Michelle, and we still weren't married, but we were happy. And after she lived with her parents, I lived with my mum in Sandymount, but we were seeing one another all the time. But the shops were beginning to go down. So what I had to do basically was I'd take my eye off. I know I had, and I put my hands up to the fact I had to close the shops, the furniture store, the grocery stores. It just wasn't working. It wasn't working. I sold one of them to a chap for X amount. I won't say the amount, but he never paid me. And that was a bit of so I owed quite a lot of money. My mum had passed away in the intervening years. She passed, my dad passed in 1970, mum in 1990. So what I decided I'd do was to clear off all my liabilities. I'd sell my house in Sandymount, right? But before I sold it, I went around to everybody I owed money to and said, I'm prepared to sell my family home. If I owe you 10 grand, would you take 5 grand? I wasn't going to carry any debt forward. It was a big move to sell your house. Yeah. So I did a deal with them all, with every one of them, including revenue, the whole lot. And I sold the house and I cleared everybody up. So I was basically debt free.
Where did you go?
Right. We had very little money left after the sale of the house because I cleared out, as I said, but I still had Pier Street. Pier Street was mine. Now I didn't move back into Pier Street. So I said to Margaret, look, let's live together. So we rented a house in Clontarf, which was a lovely little bungalow in Clontarf. So we managed to rent that, although I got help. I had to get help in getting a deposit, but we managed. Yeah. So I got going then again in Pier Street, and it was fine. I was very fortunate then to get a lease in the Northside Shopping Centre in Coolock. A friend of mine had the store. He was retiring, and I went in with a friend of mine, pretending that we were both going to take the shop, but it was for me. But I had a bit of a reputation because of what happened. Sure. And anyway, we got the lease. And it was a lovely furniture shop upstairs in the Northside Shopping Centre. So that took off very well. I traded there as Northside Furniture.
Let's pause there just for a second, because what was it at this point? You had kind of had this failure. You'd sold your house. Yeah. You'd paid off all the creditors. There doesn't seem to, and maybe it's only because it's kind of so far in the distance now. It doesn't seem that you were taking this very personally, if you're starting another furniture store straight away, you obviously had confidence that you could still sell furniture, maybe at perhaps a different location or whatever. Can you remember just what your mindset was around that?
Yeah, I can, because I may have failed, but I'm not a failure. I'm a fighter. And I knew I had to keep going. And the furniture store was outside the troubles, like the one in Pier Street. That was working away, steady away. So I had some income from that, although I'd taken it out to pay off people and whatever. But I managed to get, as I said, the Northside furniture store in the Northside Shopping Centre. But my furniture suppliers were fine. It was only the grocery suppliers that I owed money to.
Okay.
So my furniture was grand.
So that business was going quite well.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay,
Yeah.
I see.
So it was the grocery business that brought me down, because it was very easy for somebody to pass you, a friend, 20 cigarettes or 40 cigarettes, and you wouldn't notice. But you notice a mattress or a bed going missing.
Sure. Yeah, maybe a bit more obvious. And another thing you kind of mentioned, which I didn't focus on at the time, but your dad passing away at that stage, and you had this kind of burning ambition. Did that have any impact on the timing of you going out on your own as such?
It did, yeah, because I was working in the bank. I had the business in Pier Street, at least I had and my mum had, and certainly she needed help. And that's why I decided, when I saw this person getting off the bus, I said, we'll introduce something else into the shop, because I recognised, as I said earlier on, that the drapery business was going downhill.
Yeah.
Because of the Tesco's, not the Pennies and the Duns and all of these stores opening in town. And Pier Street into town is literally 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So people were going in. Although there was a big captive audience or captive customer base in Pier Street, because you had the flats and you had the houses, we still could feel the pain. Right.
Yeah.
And then I was just so mad to keep going on my own. Anyway, after the problems with the grocery business, I concentrated on the furniture business. I concentrated on the Northside Shopping Centre on Pier Street. I kept everything going, and it was going very, very, very well. And then Margaret and I were living in Clontarf, and we had a little Michelle. She was great. And what happened then was we wanted to have more children. It didn't happen, right? So I got very much involved with the Chernobyl Children's Project after the Chernobyl disaster, where Adi Roach would bring over kids from Chernobyl to Ireland, and we hosted some of those children in our house, and it was a fantastic experience. So when it was discovered that there were no more children coming the normal way, we decided we'd adopt. And the country of our choice was Russia.
Mm.
So we approached, we had to get married to adopt. Okay. In those days. You couldn't just be two single people. So we had to go through a procedure with the Eastern Health Board to get vetted, to get your certificate of, well, I can't remember the word now, but compliance. But we went through all that, and it was great. We got past, but we had to get married. So we got married. we had 5 people at the wedding.
Wow. Yeah.
Me, Margaret, my best man, his wife, and her mother.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
5 people. We got married in Killiney, did a church in Killiney, and we had our wedding reception in Killiney Castle. 5 people.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got permission to go to Russia. We used an adoption agency called Adoptions Unlimited. And it was an Irishman, Brendan Maloney was his name, and he was married to a Russian girl called Inga. So what happened then was we went through the whole process. We got our paperwork from the Eastern Health Board. We got information from the adoption agency of various children who were available for adoption. And one in particular stood out, so we liked her. So we said, right, and we got as much information as we could about her. Name is Marina. So we packed our bags and we went to Russia the night Princess Diana was killed.
Wow. Okay.
I'll always remember it. So we took a flight. We drove to Shannon's. We fly from Shannon to Moscow. So we took the flight, arrived in Russia, went to the orphanage. We were met there by an interpreter and by a representative of Adoptions Unlimited. Brought us to the orphanage. We had to take an overnight train from Moscow to a city called Nizhny Novgorod. I hope I'm pronouncing it.
It sounds excellent. It was like there was a Russian person here.
Nizhny Novgorod. Anyway, we got there and we arrived at the orphanage, and then we were introduced to little Marina. And poor Marina was sitting down. She was only 2 at the time, in a room, eating her dinner on her own. So when we arrived at the orphanage, I found this a bit disturbing. There were loads of other children, we'd say, playing or whatever. And they were saying, Mama, Papa, Mama, Papa. They were shouting because they thought we were coming. They didn't know who we were coming from. Yeah. And I found that a bit distressing. I also found Nizhny a bit distressing. It was a very dark and dull city. It wasn't very nice.
Yeah.
And the orphanage wasn't very nice. And the hotel accommodation that we were staying in wasn't very nice. There were cats running around the restaurant. Like, it was terrible. But anyway, we went to the orphanage, saw Marina, and then what we had to do was go to court, because at that time it would appear, apparently there were a lot of Americans adopting Russian children, and they were using the children for body parts. For if they had children of their own at home, they may have had a lung disease or a lung infection or something, and they were adopting kids for transplants. So the Russians copped on to this, and they were very strict, I must say, and I must compliment them. They brought us to court. They interviewed me. They interviewed Margaret. And most of all, they interviewed Michelle. She was, and the question is sick. Is there anything wrong with you? Do you need any kind of medication? So they were, a child doesn't lie. So they were quite happy, I think, to accept. So then we got our papers and we flew back to Ireland. We were over in Russia for about 2 weeks. We flew back to Ireland, and for some reason, our story had got out there in Ireland. We were the second Irish couple to adopt from Russia. And when we arrived back at the airport in Shannon, we got the car, went to Dublin. When we arrived at our house, there was a big party, a big celebration, all the neighbours and people, and even the press. So I then got a phone call from Pat Kenny, the broadcaster, and he took me on a show to explain the whole process that we'd gone through. We then decided we'd help other Irish people adopt, and we became kind of an ambassador for Adoptions Unlimited, where we would have meetings and explain what is involved and what has to be done and how much it costs. So that was a lovely journey. And then Adi Roach got involved with us, and there was another Russian organisation. I can't think of the name of them now at the moment. It'll come to me in a minute. From Russia with Love. So we all got involved. The community got bigger, and it was a great experience.
Yeah,
we did that for about 3 years, and we met up with a couple who adopted the first Russian child. They were based down in Limerick, and then we became friends. It was super, really nice. So I was still working away when the dust settled. I was still working away in the shops, flying along. It was going great. Marina went to school, so it was fine. So,
and did I know? Obviously, you had had a daughter previously. Was there a worry or a kind of because I suppose you're going into a territory where your daughter's already 2 by the time she's living with you, and that you're a parent. So was there any kind of difficulty or a challenge in your own mind about what the future might hold, and that you hoped that you would be able to do it, I suppose?
Yeah, well, I was quite comfortable. Like we were doing quite well, or very well, in fact, in Northside and in Pearse Street. I'd got rid of all the other small shops. They just were too much effort.
Sure.
And I copped on after my last experience to just concentrate on the 2 of them. Again, I did change that a little bit. I did open a shop in the Donaghmede shopping centre. So I had Northside, Donaghmede and Pearse Street. Well, they were all in a circle, but they weren't in the city centre. They were great. And Donaghmede was quite good to me as well. So we had the 2 out of 3. What happened then was we were playing along, things were going. We bought a house then in Clontarf. Margaret was out walking one day and she saw this lovely house. She said, I want to buy this, Michael. you know. So I actually got a loan from the bank because I kind of proven myself that I can get back on my feet. I didn't screw the banks at all, even in the first case. It was the suppliers more so than the banks because I didn't have any borrowings. But the banks were Trustee Savings Bank. It was actually who gave me my first. I just passed them there. It's small. Oh, yeah. They gave me my first mortgage. The manager was very fair with me. He was a good guy, and we bought the house in Clontarf, which is a lovely little house, super. And so Michelle, myself, and Margaret lived in that. My sister Mary had rented a house on her own in Clontarf also, so she was just literally 5 minutes away from us.
Yeah.
So that was great because she would look after Michelle, and there was, we could go out.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, or Marina as well, of course. What happened then was we were working away on the north side, going very well. I didn't have flashy cars. I never bought flashy cars, but I needed a new car, and I bought a Skoda Octavia. This was 09, 08, 07. I bought a new Skoda Octavia. I had previously that a little Ford Fiesta. So I decided, and I thought to myself, how am I going to make a bit of money out of this car? So a friend of mine asked me one day, do you know anybody who rents taxis? Right? And I said, I don't. And I didn't. But I started thinking, why don't I go and get myself a taxi license? So what I did was I applied for a PSV license, which I got. So I turned that first car I bought into a taxi. 070 31499 was the registration. I'll never forget it. And I started renting it out. Okay? Because I still had my little Fiesta. I didn't sell it.
Sure. Yeah.
I started renting the taxi out, and it was going great. Then from that one, I rented another one, or bought another one. So I kept adding on without any kind of stress. I ended up with 28 taxis.
Which is a sizable enough business for something that you just started.
Absolutely, yeah. And I called it Blue Circle cabs. I had lovely branded logos, really nice. I had them all rented out. I actually drove one myself because I enjoyed it. I actually did a bit of taxiing, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
Because you pick up somebody, they flag you down. Where are you going? Then you've got to put all this into your head. How do I get from city centre to Stillorgan or Blackrock or whatever? So you have to work it all out. We didn't have sat-navs of those days.
And was it just that you didn't like the idea of the car sitting there without making you any money?
And I couldn't justify it because I was living in Clontarf and my main business was in Coolock. So I couldn't justify just having a car sitting there in my mind.
Yeah.
And this was the businessman in me, we'll say.
Yeah.
So I as I said, I got my taxi license. I enjoyed doing a little bit of it, but I kept renting them out. And I built up a great rapport with some of the drivers. And then my brother was very good. He helped me get the cars NCT'd. He had to get them what they call SGS, get the license renewed every year. He took over that role so I could concentrate on the business, the furniture business. So anyway, that was working out fine. Then we had in 08, 09, the recession hit. And it hit me very hard up in Coolock because the rents were high. People were stopping to buy big ticket items. So I found it very difficult. And I tried, and we also had service charges to pay because we're in a shopping centre, and the same in Donamead. So I decided, I spoke to the landlord, the big property group, Green Property. They weren't budging. They could reduce the rent a little bit, but the service charges were outside their control. And what I did was I kept putting my own reserves back into the business, thinking that it would survive, not realising that the recession was going to be so severe. So it eventually dawned on me, this is not going to work. So I liquidated Northside Furniture Limited. I did a proper liquidation, had a proper creditors meeting, did everything above board, and it gave people, like I didn't set out to do anybody, to rob anybody. It's just the recession just hit. So I paid them off the best I could. Not them all, some of them. But I did have I had a warehouse in Coolock and I had the shop in Pier Street. So then I sat down and I said, what the I was going to say something there.
That's okay. You can say whatever you want.
Excuse me. Excuse me. I said, what am I going to do now? So I realized that in my furniture world, I was selling more beds and mattresses than sofas and coffee tables and tables. So I had a warehouse in Coolock, which was my kind of distribution point for all of my deliveries and so forth, and taking stuff in, because you couldn't, in Pier Street, you couldn't load or unload. It was very difficult. So I had this lovely little warehouse in Coolock. Anyhow, I said, right, what the hell am I going to do now? And I had a lot of, the warehouse was not part of my liquidation because it was in my own name. Pier Street was in my own name. It wasn't part of the limited company. So I came up with the idea of selling beds and mattresses. At that time, there was no dedicated bed or mattress store in Ireland, or in Dublin anyway, in Ireland actually. So I said, how am I going to get this off the ground? I had very little money once again. This was my second time to go down after the grocery store and now this. I had very little money left. So I met a friend of mine. Well, I didn't know him at the time. I was in the yacht pub in Clontarf having a pint one night. And this chap comes out to me, hello, Mick, how are you? I'm Paul Kelly. He said, do you remember me? And I said, I don't, Paul, I'm sorry. But he said, I used to see you standing at the shop door in Pier Street when I would go and buy as a student or whatever. Oh, I said, okay. And he said, what are you doing now? And I said, well, what I'm doing is I'm basically trying to get a new business going. I have very little money. And I said, Jesus, that's great. He said, what do you do, Paul? He said, well, I have a company called Shoot Audition, and it's a video company where if you want to be an actor, an aspiring actor, I will do a shoot for you, and they can send that off to wherever. He said, do you know anything about social media? I said, no, nothing. Which I didn't. He said, you ever hear of Facebook? I heard of it, but I don't know what it is. Yeah. I know nothing about it. He said, well, I know a lot about it. And he said, would you consider talking to me further about maybe helping you get a business off the ground? So I said, of course I will. So I was formulating this in my mind. I was trying to think of a name, a gimmicky name. And I came up with different ideas. I wanted the word mattress in the name. It could be Mattress Supreme, Mattress, but Mattress Mick had a ring to it. I also thought of Mick's mattresses, Mattress Mickey, Mattress, but I liked the ring about Mattress Mick. So I said to Paul, I'm going to use the name Mattress Mick. And he agreed. But he claims that he was the one who decided. And I said, no, you're not, Paul. Yeah. And we started by doing we dressed the shop up in Coolock, the warehouse, with beds. I got support from most of my suppliers because they all got paid or were being paid, one or the other. So they all said they would support me. Well, with the exception of one or two who are now regretting it big time that they didn't come on board. But the ones who did come on board, I'm supporting now fantastically. So we got the warehouse decked out as a retail unit, and we started marketing it on social media. I did these videos, crazy videos. Paul put them up on Facebook and on Instagram and wherever else you could find. We also started putting posters up around Dublin. I got these posters. A friend of mine actually took a photograph of me, the iconic photograph where I'm standing up with my hand out. That was taken totally by accident, that photograph. And we decided we'd use that. So I got a friend of mine to do some posters up on curryboard, and we put them everywhere, like literally everywhere around Dublin, on empty shop fronts, railings, traffic lights, everywhere. And people began to notice the posters, and also did Dublin City Council. I kept getting these fines for litter all the time, but I didn't pay one of them, not one of them. I went to court. I stood up for myself and I said, look, I need to advertise my business. I'm not doing any harm. I'm certainly not litter. Do you think, Your Honour, I'm litter? And they couldn't say anything. Anyway, they all let me off.
You never paid a fine?
Never paid one fine.
What year was that?
That was 2011, 2012.
Okay, so like really at the bottom of the recession.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions, but
Good.
first, why did you think that this was going to work? Like, it has worked. In hindsight, it's just worked incredibly well, right?
Yeah.
But what was it about? Because I suppose the shop had already gone south. The furniture was difficult, but I mean, you still felt that you could still sell a mattress, which is still a high ticket enough item, I suppose, at that time. Why did you really think this would work?
Well, it was a different approach to the retail business in Dublin. It was new, and everybody needs a mattress. Everybody needs a bed, and you look around you. Everybody goes home and sleeps. So it's a thing. It's like a tin of beans in a supermarket. A mattress is something that people need, and I just thought I had to keep going. I couldn't stop. Now, my friends, like your comment there, like people are saying, "You're mad. It's not going to work." But I'm a firm believer in following my intuition, and I go with what I call tunnel vision. If I want to do something, I go tunnel vision at it. If it didn't work, it didn't work. But I believed it would. And particularly the fact that with the response that we got from the initial videos was tremendous. Like, it was super. We put a big sign up in at the Five Lamps near Connolly Station. And it was spotted by Stephen Fry. And he tweeted about it.
And he had at the time 8 million followers or nearly 9 million followers or something like that.
And that blew it out of the water. Like I had radio stations that had everybody ringing me, and that was about 3 or 4 years after we started. Also, we had a situation. A girl from a researcher from RTE saw the science, and there was a program on RTE at the time called Wagon's Den. Catherine Lynch was the host, and they needed somebody to bring out a mattress. They had 2 guests on who were married to footballers, and there was some situation where they were having affairs and whatever. They wanted to talk about this.
Sure.
But Brian Dowling was on the panel, Catherine Lynch, and they asked me to come out from behind the scenes carrying a mattress, and that was a great boost to the profile.
But and again, I suppose the signs, and they're kind of still the same today as they were back then. Yeah. They're not what I like. If I take something like, so a mattress is kind of something that people sleep on. It's kind of like a cozy thing that you're trying to get across. Like if I think of, Andrex or something, the toilet paper, right? Yeah. And they've got the dogs, and it's all kind of fluffy, and it's it's almost, you're kind of selling something soft and fluffy. Whereas these are like bright red and yellow signs with you on them. Was that intentional? Was it, I just want to look almost very striking and get people's attention? Yeah,
it was, because we had at the time when we decided to use me, we had 3 options. I could use a cartoon, I could use an actor, or I could use me. Now, I was the cheapest. I had the long hair, the glasses. I look a little bit different. So, and again, the main reason was I had no money to employ an actor. A cartoon we tried some, they didn't like them. So I said, no, we go with me and see what happens.
Yeah.
And that's how that evolved. And I think it's the fact that people can meet me, they can talk to me, they can connect with me. Like, I have these cardboard cutouts in my shop of me, life-size cardboard cutouts. People actually come into the shop and ask to borrow them for weddings, for birthdays, for christenings. I've been at all of these gigs, and they come in their car, they take me out in the back of their car, and I don't give them to keep, but some of them I don't get back. That's fine. But I just felt that Michael Flynn, with my personality, could connect well with people. And I've proven that I can do that. The publicity that was given to me by RTA, Joe Duffy, Ray Darcy, I've been on all their shows. And that's only for a reason. They only asked me on for a reason because I am a normal guy. I'm not up in the clouds. I can connect. And I think that, and I've made mistakes. And I think everybody can relate to people making mistakes and to have failed. And failing was the best thing that ever happened to me. But I couldn't realize it at the time, particularly the furniture stores. Forget about the grocery stores. I met my wife out of them.
Yeah, success.
Success, yeah. I met my wife, but she's passed away 2 years ago. So we had a great 40 years together.
Yeah.
With 2 great kids. So that came out of the grocery store. What came out of the furniture store is, well, the security it's given me now, the fun. It's really great fun. I've been to town and asked for selfies.
Yeah.
And the connection with people is incredible. I love it.
Yeah.
I also do these talks in schools. I give, particularly leaving cert students, I give them talks. I've been invited by the schools, the local schools as well as some other schools, about marketing, about what you want to do when you grow up, and tell my story. And the one point I tried to bring across is, if you have an idea, follow your dreams. Don't be afraid to fail, because you won't be a failure. You'll start again. And have tunnel vision to where you want to go. And the schools loved it. I even did a talk in Wheatfield Prison to prisoners.
How did that go down?
Great. Fantastic. There was 30 odd people in the room. And that was a couple of years ago. And even since then, some of the guys in that room have come out to thank me.
Really?
Yeah. Just because I'm Michael Flynn, Mattress Mick. I'm a human being. I'm not a superstar. I'm just an ordinary guy.
Where does the self-belief come from? So the reason I'm asking is, I'm in a group called Entrepreneurs Organization, and we had someone in, this guy Daniel Priestley, who's very much about personal branding. He's an Australian guy, and he gave a talk about personal branding and why it's so important. And he asked the room then, does anyone have any resistance to this? And most hands went up. Now, these would be very confident business people, who believe in their business, believe in themselves.
Right.
But the resistance of putting themselves out there as them personally was huge. And was there, I'm kind of wondering, was there a hesitancy for you at all in doing it? You said you were following your intuition, but was there an element of, if I don't sell any mattresses out of this, I'm going to look, ridiculous,
No, that never crossed my mind at all, to be honest with you. I was desperate to get going again. As I said to you earlier on, it was me, a cartoon, or an actor. I said, I'd take the chance. I wasn't afraid to fail. If it didn't work, it didn't work.
Yeah.
I'd already had 2 bad experiences. But out of those 2 bad experiences came one great opportunity to be myself, to put my alter ego, we say, out there. That's basically it.
Yeah.
And I just love connection. I love meeting the grannies. I love meeting the young ones. I love meeting, this for the videos.
Of course. To clarify that. That's fine.
No, but I love and it's so, it gives me so much pleasure to think that people are gaining something from my experiences. And it all, I think, stems back to the days in Pearse Street when I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get into a tennis club, because of where we lived. Now, I don't relate that at all to people. In fact, I went into Apollo House. I don't know if you remember Apollo House.
The homeless shelter
block that was taken over in 20. I went in there with a group of people to take over Apollo House. I supplied all the beds and mattresses. And it was fantastic. A guy called Dean Scurry, who lives in Ballymun, organised it. We had Glenn Hansard, we had Cordeline, we had Christy Moore. We had them all there participating. And these people are all my friends now. Well, I won't say friends, but we connect on a WhatsApp group. Hosier, they were all there. But besides all that, these guys are only humans like you and me. They may be up there in a lot of people's profiles, but no, they're only normal guys. Like, they came in, they sang on Christmas Day. We cooked them dinner on Christmas Day, all the homeless people. It was it was 26 days of really, really giving. And I thoroughly enjoy that. And I enjoy the connection. And I didn't do it for the publicity. I did it because I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And it certainly gave me an insight into how things can be for other people. Like, I went out for a walk during Apollo House. Myself and 2 members of Cordeline, the band, went for a walk around town to see how many people were sleeping homeless. We went down Henry Street, Cable Street. It was unreal. But some people sleeping on the streets are happy to sleep on the streets. You know, they don't want to go into night shelters or hostels or whatever. They're quite happy because I think they just become indoctrinated and they're afraid. But a Follow House was a great experience. Really.
What is it, do you think? So originally when you talked about adopting your daughter, right, from Russia, and I suppose in that way you're kind of, you've made some money and you've your family is now stable and you're able to give someone a chance, I suppose, because when you went to Russia, as you said, you were a little bit taken aback by the conditions and everything. So you're really giving someone a chance there. Yeah. And in all these other things that you're doing that I suppose the Mattress Mick profile has helped you do, it's not just about selling mattresses, right? There's actually you want to kind of use that for doing good.
Yes.
Where do you think that comes from?
I can't really give you an answer to that. It's just me. It's just wanting to help people. I've been helped, giving a little bit back, sharing my good luck with less fortunate. It's the only way I can answer that question. It's just part of Michael Flynn's makeup. Not Mattress Mick, Michael Flynn, who just loves to help people. Enjoys it. I go into town, I sit outside a pub called the Bailey in Duke Street. I love sitting outside there. And the guys go by, you know, with hands out. And there's one particular guy, his name is Paul. Now, I've been helping Paul for the last 5 years. He'd come along, I give him a fiver. And I used to go there with my wife and Margaret, and we'd sit outside. And he actually, when I told him that Margaret had passed, he actually got very upset. You know, there's a human side to everybody.
Sure.
A human side. Like I lost my sister Mary, I lost my brother Brian, and my wife Margaret the last 5 years. It's a lot to take on board. And but you do get the support. You do get something. I do believe, I go to Mass. I go to Mass every Sunday. Now, I enjoy going to Mass. I enjoy sitting at the back of the church. I don't necessarily stand up when you're supposed to stand up or kneel. I just sit there and talk to God and pray and thank Him for the downs and the ups, you know.
Did you always do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I was an altar boy in City Key Church for many years. Yeah, I've always had a great belief in a higher power. Well, I call him God or higher power. Certainly I believe it. And I also believe that you get, and a lot of people probably disagree with me, but I think you get support from those who have gone before you. I genuinely do. I really do. And one of the, I ask for help. I say, can I, to my wife, for example, can you connect with me? I don't know if it's in my mind or if she's actually connecting back with me, but I do feel I get help. Genuinely. Both, right? The chairman of my company is my father. Although he's long gone, I say he's the chairman. Larry was his name, Larry Flynn. He's the chairman. I talk to him. You know, what do you think it is, Larry? What do you think of that? People might say you're off the rest. I'm honest about it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure an awful lot of people do the same, but won't admit it.
What is it in those moments where you're talking to your dad? Is it that I suppose you're channeling what you remember of him and what the kind of guy he was and what he might do in a particular situation? Yeah.
You're looking for help. You're looking for a hand on the shoulder. You know, you're looking for something. But I always seem to get it. I really do. I'd even give you a weirder one. I'm trying. If I go into town driving in, I say, Dad, I need a parking spot. I always get one. Even the other night I was in town. Going down Dawson Street, turned right, Molesworth Street, parking spot. You know, I don't know if it's all coincidental or it's in my head or whatever, but I honestly believe there's some connection.
Yeah.
I really do. Just as I pulled around, another car was pulling out and I just got there.
Was there an element of faith when after you had failed in the, I suppose in the crash and the more recent crash and the Mattress Mick came out, was there an element of faith?
Yeah,
as you were doing it?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
particularly after the first one. I went to, there's a novena in town called the St. Jude Novena. St. Jude is the patron saint of hopeless cases. So I went into that novena for 3 years after the supermarket thing every Tuesday night. And I don't know if I got a lot out of it. I think what I got, there were so many other people there who were all looking for help. It wasn't just me. So they were all there for a reason, knowing that St. Jude is the patron saint of hopeless cases. And that gives you enough comfort.
Do you think that perhaps the success of Mattress Mick and everything that's happened since then, do you think that perhaps it's been given to you because you almost see the responsibility, or you're sharing it with others?
Yeah, I do, and I think it's like the payday. Like, I've had my ups and downs. I looked after all my family. I'm now comfortable making money, surviving. Like we have, and I think that's as a result of belief in myself, belief in help from up there, belief in just being a nice person. You know, and I do feel, genuinely feel that if the other things hadn't happened to me, the failures, I wouldn't be here now.
Mm.
You wouldn't have any interest in me, you know, because if you're just a normal furniture store, I had to invent or reinvent myself to make it different because I had no money. And I think that, and I've had good guidance from up there and people in the industry. And I also like sharing my story. Like, I'm talking to you now, but I've also shared, as I said earlier on, with schools, with kids. They all benefit somewhere along the line. Now, Mattress Mick, I only have one shop at the moment, but there's 10 Mattress Mick stores around the country. Well, what I did was I registered Mattress Mick as a trademark, and I give other retailers a license to trade as Mattress Mick. I don't own them. I just get a fee from them for giving them the permission to use my name. And it's great. We're all over the country, like in Waterford, Carlow, Dundalk, everywhere. And we've more planned. And this is getting the brand out there with no exposure to myself. I've no more leases. I don't want any more leases. Don't want any more staff. But the brand is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And hopefully someday, maybe down the road, I can sell it off.
So the brand in itself has become a business in its own right.
Yeah. And that, again, was an idea that people said, oh, that's not going to work, because it had never been done before in Ireland.
Mm.
I said, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Now, we had one or two guys who it didn't work for. That's fine. But again, as I said earlier on, keep going. And now we have 10 of them.
Well, it worked well enough for Richard Branson, so I suppose with the Virgin brand and everything else.
Yeah.
So I suppose,
it works well for some, but in our industry, in the furniture industry, it was never done before.
Yeah.
And this is what I like, the fact that I created this concept. I get a lot of people approaching me for a license, and some of them I don't want because I know, I just know it's not going to work.
Sure.
I'm very protective of it because it is a brand. We've also had a musical.
Yeah, Mattress Mick the musical. Yeah.
That went down very, very well. That was basically the story that I'm telling you today, except it was in an hour and a half musical.
How did that come about?
Yeah. One day I was in town. I was sitting outside having a drink in Davy Byrne's pub. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah.
And this girl goes by. Her name is Josephine McCaffrey, and she's a comedian. And she was promoting a gig in the Duke pub down the way. And she saw me saying, I know you. And she came over and started talking to me. So I became friends with her. I went to her gig, and I actually helped her promote the gig by putting signs up in Pure Street and other places. So anyway, she said to me one day, do you ever think of doing a musical? I said, no, I never thought about that. But she said, I'll write it for you, the story. So that's how that happened. And she wrote it, and we had the actors, and the show was quite a success.
Is it still on?
It's on. Well, it's not on at the moment, but it'll be on again. The last gig was in the Sugar Club about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And on top of that, then there's a book coming out. the story of my life.
And it's, I suppose, the story you've been listening to today.
Yeah, but there's a little bit more in it because it's a lot.
Sure.
It's 250 pages.
Okay. And when's it out?
It's been, I think, released in October.
Okay.
You know.
Great. We'll be lining up outside the bookshops to get it, or on Amazon or whatever.
It's a bit of fun anyway. It's just different. And so we had the documentary as well. I don't know if you called that.
Do you know, I haven't seen the documentary, but I saw they were watching it on Gogglebox one time, and I was listening to people on Gogglebox. And I remember at that stage, people were saying, this guy is a genius. He's a marketing genius.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that at the time?
No. I never felt I was a genius. I just felt I was doing what I wanted to do. It was coming to me. And one situation would have developed in another situation. So it just got more adventurous. The documentary was supposed to be only for 10 minutes. But Colin McQuinn, the director, kept going and kept going and kept going. So it was an hour and a half, and it won a NIFTA award.
Did it?
In in the Mansion House for the documentary of the year in 2016.
Can you see it now? Is it still available? The documentary? Yeah. Is it
I
arse?
think it's on. Oh God, I'm not too sure what platform it was on.
I'll find it after this, and I'll put it in the show notes for people. Mattress Men. Yeah.
It's in it. The story's in it.
How quickly did this work in terms of selling mattresses? Immediately.
As soon as the signs went up and a bit of publicity, it started to click in straight away.
And so for you, there was a bit of momentum at the start of it because, and obviously a bit of excitement because the signs had gone up, and then there wasn't much time to wait then, obviously.
And that kept me going. In fact, the whole idea was to sell mattresses, not to become what I've become.
Sure.
It was to just sell mattresses. But no, they started to sell pretty quickly after we started putting the signs out. The Facebook, the YouTube, all that kind of stuff. We had a song written too about us by Richie Kavanagh. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Nope.
He's a very famous guy. He wrote Mattress Mick. It's very good. And we can go on the story of Mattress, the ballad of Mattress Mick. So.
Okay. Yes. I think I've actually seen it. I saw your rap song.
That's Back with a Bang.
Back with a Bang. Yes. How like at what stage did that come up? Was it kind of the next? Was a couple of years after all this?
I was doing all the short videos, like we were doing them on the green screen. And then the idea came up to do a longer video, like a film video. So we put our heads together and we put it together. We shot it down in Windmill Lane. We shot it in some of the pubs. I did a rap. I'm singing. I'm back with a bang. I haven't got a note in my head.
So it's very good that the lyrics to it are very funny. I was listening to it yesterday just before this, but there's kind of my mattressy. I can't even remember, but it's almost like ludicrous things are coming up in the song. It's very funny.
Singing that to me, there he is. He's back.
Yeah.
I could have had kids on the street.
Yeah,
it's really gas.
Yeah.
But it made the whole thing has worked.
Yeah,
it's there's a lot more there in the story, but time is. I've given you the important, what I think are the important pieces.
Sure. So when you're talking to, whether it be prisoners in Wheatfield Prison or children in schools and everything, what's the key message for them?
It just goes back to the schools. These are leaving cert students. A lot of them would have ideas to start their own businesses. I would say to them, the overall theme is, if you have an idea, cultivate it, believe that you can achieve it, and go for it. And don't be afraid of what people say to you. Just tunnel vision all the way. And if it doesn't work, don't consider yourself to be a failure. Just say, we'll do it again, we'll do something else. And that's the message I try to get out to people. And that's the message I gave myself when I started Mattress Mick. People were saying, no, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. No, it did. So what I say to students, just follow your dream.
I failed, but I'm not a failure.
Yeah,
I've heard you say that before, and you said it earlier on as well. Where did that come from? Was that something that you know your mother taught you or something?
That's
like
something that came from me, because I did fail twice, but I'm not a failure. Like the recession, I had no control over. Now I had a bit of control over the first time because I was out enjoying myself, but I put my hands up to that. I'm not ashamed to say that. You know, I took the eye off the ball. That the second one, the recession, I had no control over. You know, and I didn't. You can do two things when you go down. You can go and drink like a fish. You can sign yourself into St. John of God's, or you can go again. That's my thinking.
And I do think a lot of people, they personalize failure, and I don't know if it's an Irish thing, but you know, they do really feel like I'm a failure.
They do,
when they fail, you know. And I don't know, actually, the social media might have a part to play in this a little bit, you know, with seeing other people succeed and that kind of thing. I think it's sometimes young people especially have this, I suppose it's a challenge for young people, you know, we're kind of hearing it at the moment. So I think it's a great message.
Yeah.
Do you feel that they absorb it when you tell them?
Actually, yeah, because I know they absorb, because I've had feedback. You know, I've met kids, even there last 2 weeks ago. I had a situation with the rates department. With the property in Pearse Street is empty at the moment, and we had to get, they're assessing us for rates. But anyway, we got an assessor to come down to view, or an inspector, sorry, to come down and view the building. Now, the guy who came down didn't realise it was a Mattress Mick shop. He said to my friend who let him in, I wasn't around, do you know that man saved my life? 6 years ago, he gave me a talk in school. When he said save, I don't know what he meant by that. I have no idea. But he said he made a big impression on me. Like, that's lovely.
Mm.
I get parents sometimes writing into me saying, the message you gave my child in school, thank you so much. It changed his whole way of thinking. I think that's what I do it for.
Michael Flynn, thank you very much for joining me this morning. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming in and for doing it. It's been a very enjoyable experience for me, and wish you the best of luck with everything you're doing in the future.
Yeah, thank you. No, I did enjoy talking about it. It's sometimes it can be a bit difficult, but no, you've been very fair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mattress Mick.
There's only one of me.